Today is a little different. Today we're going to be talking about my top 10 favorite action MMOs, not free-to-play MMOs, not upcoming MMOs. We're talking about my favorite action titles right now. Games you can go right ahead and download and get to playing this very second. Some of these are free games, some of these are paid games, some of them are open world, some of them are hub-based. We have quite a variety here, and I feel like that is integral to a good list. I mean, if they're all the same type of game, if they all look the same, if they all play the same, then there's really no difference, right? Before we go any further though, did you know that we currently stream a variety of different MMOs over on Twitch? If you're interested, come on over and join us. We stream every Tuesday, every Saturday, and Sunday at 3 p.m. EST. And we would love to have you come on over and play with us as we tackle all of these different MMOs. Now, I know that some of you are definitely going to disagree with at least one, if not more, of these games, but do remember, this list is completely subjective. So if you would instead have inserted other games into here, if there are other games that you would recommend, then I urge you to go ahead into the comment section below and list them. I would love to know what games you guys think deserve to be in a list like this. And I would love to know why you guys believe they deserve to be in a list like this. That way I could go and dedicate more time to them myself and get a better gauge of the kind of game they are. Or I could actually go ahead and include them in a follow-up video sometime next year. Let's start this off with Phantasy Star Online 2. This actually just launched internationally this year, and has since went on to garner quite an active player base, numbering in the tens of thousands concurrently at any point during the day. Unlike most action MMOs, or rather unlike most MMOs in general, PSO2 allows for players to equip 3 different weapons at any given time, with each weapon having its own unique style of play. This provides quite a lot of room to highly customize the type of character you want to build, and allows for you to fill a variety of different roles simultaneously. However, I think the one single drawback to PSO2 is the fact that it's a very limited hub-based MMO, something that the new Genesis release next year aims to remedy. But the sheer amount of raw fun that you can have with groups of people all tackling the same large boss encounters is almost unrivaled in both an action MMO, a hub-based MMO, or an anime MMO. Lost Ark hasn't truly released globally yet, but Amazon Game Studios are working on getting it to us next year in 2021. Mrs Stix and I have been streaming the Russian version of the game and have so far been having a lot of fun. Like every top-down isometric MMO, the game has a world that's split into zones. Each zone has a plethora of quests that you can do, and most of the time has a dungeon either story-related or random. Graphically, this game is one of the best-looking games in this list, and its action combat is some of the best that I have found, allowing for players to combo quite a few abilities together and unleash devastating havoc. And the graphics, both for abilities and the world itself, are absolutely stunning. Okay, so Guild Wars 2 is actually a little debatable in terms of whether or not you'd classify it as an action MMO, but considering the vast majority of my abilities are usable without any target whatsoever, I would say that it is. We're actually getting a brand new expansion in the future, End of Dragons, and with that there's been a resurgence of activity. Guild Wars 2 is one of the largest free MMOs that I have ever played, having a ridiculously large open world split between the base game and 2 expansions. Although the world itself utilizes segregated zones, not that that's an issue considering the sheer size of each zone. Combat provides players the option of equipping 2 different weapons at any given time, along with an underwater weapon, giving quite a bit of freedom over how you want to play your class. I know some people believe that the game isn't really action oriented, but I feel as though it most definitely is. And you know what? It is probably one of the highest quality, most complete experiences available in a free MMO. Soul Worker Online has always, and likely will always, be one of my favorite anime MMOs. Yes, it's a hub MMO, but at the same time it offers so many different towns, so many different maps to run, that it really just doesn't feel nearly as bad as some others in the genre. It's only been available in the West for a couple years now, and I'm gonna be real here. While Gameforge aren't really the greatest publisher and have kinda run the game into the ground a little bit, it's worth noting that that doesn't make it any less fun. This is a beautiful game that has equally as good combat, allowing you to bind several abilities to your hotbar and bind combos onto the end of one another, allowing for you to customize how your abilities follow up from one another. I know the population in Soul Worker is actually a little on the low end right now, and it makes sense as to why, but this is one of the most anime-ish MMOs that you will find, and I cannot recommend it enough. I always have. Vindictus is much like Soul Worker, but with less diverse hubs to explore. However, that doesn't mean that the game doesn't have a lot to do or a lot to look at, as the game probably has more content than any other hub MMO I've come across, with the exception being maybe Dungeon Fighter Online or PSO2. Many players actually claim that Vindictus has some of, if not the best action combat in any MMO to date, and I'll admit it does have some very good combat. Not only is it incredibly flashy, and not only does it have some absolutely incredible looking encounters, but being able to actively interact with your environment, pillars, broken fences, heck, even monsters themselves, makes for some ridiculous fun. Yes, there isn't really all that much to explore, and quests are typically fairly generic, but if you're after something where combat is your main concern, well, combat and great graphics, then this is by far one of the titles that you should be singling out. If it weren't for TERA, Mrs Stix and I never would have met, and I'd still be single. Sorry, ladies. So, this game, regardless of the state it is currently in or will be in the future, will always hold a very, very special place in my heart and in my memories. While the leveling experience has been fairly truncated over time, it is mostly dungeon farming until level 65. Well, dungeon farming in general, the game offers an incredibly large, beautiful world that was once filled with players out participating in all of the quests that the world used to offer. Some people still do, granted, of course, but not nearly to the same degree, unfortunately. Thankfully, even if most players run dungeons almost exclusively to level these days, and most of the endgame is also running instances, the combat is top tier. Actually, it's probably one of the highest quality combat systems in an action MMO. It has tiered combos, a large hotbar, a plethora of different abilities to learn and upgrade, and the game looks fantastic while doing all of it. There's plenty to do in game if you take the time to look and perhaps find a guild or a group of friends to run content with. This is actually quite similar to Vindictus, if Vindictus were made by the same team that made Black Desert Online. C9, Continent of the Night Seal, while yes, it definitely looks a little dated, is still played by thousands of players every day because of its addicting combat system and diverse selection of instances. Yes, this is a hub MMO, and as such, what you're capable of doing is definitely limited to the instances you can enter, but they take up quite a variety of different environments that you don't really feel as though you're ever running the same content for too long. And I know I said it looks dated, but honestly, it doesn't look bad at all. Just when you compare it to most of the other titles in this list, you can definitely see the noticeable difference. I've never devoted nearly enough time to C9, but that isn't because it's a bad game. I just never really had the time to dedicate to truly push through it as far as I perhaps should have. I mean, I'm sure that everyone that loves action MMOs has played through Black Desert, right? Well, in theory you should have, but then every time they hold a sale, which seems to be almost monthly these days, so many people jump in and buy it that I would almost think that nobody has played this game before. I mean, let's be honest here, it's one of the kings of the action genre, right? It has what is arguably some of the, if not the best action combat of any MMO, and set the benchmark for what an MMO should look like to truly impress players. Yet at the same time, the game also lacks much in the way to do. If you're a fan of endless grinding, then this will definitely be the game for you. Or if you're a fan of slowly tackling life skills, things that have no relation to combat whatsoever, then this also might be the game for you. But if you're looking for a title with epic combat that also has core MMO mechanics like dungeons, raids, and maybe PvP, heck, even just group content in general, you'll find out rather quickly that this game, while yes, it definitely has PvP, doesn't really have much else. But don't let that dissuade you from playing the game, because even Mrs Stix and I find ourselves coming back to the game every few months to play the new classes. This is the last hub MMO that I'll include here, but at the same time, Dungeon Fighter Online is the most populated MMO in the entire world. Yeah, no kidding. Granted, it isn't in North America or Europe, but it has several million Chinese players logged in concurrently. Yeah, it has more players logged in at any given time during the day than WoW over an entire month. That's crazy, right? I'm honestly not sure why that is, as while Dungeon Fighter is a very good game, it really is, I don't think it is that good where it is more played and more profitable than any other game in the entire world. It has some pretty crazy, fantastic looking action combat, don't get me wrong. It has some really great class diversity and customization, and it looks great for the type of game that it is. It also has a variety of different hubs and a very deep, rich story. I dare say it's one of, if not the best hub MMO out there, but at the same time, more popular than any other MMO? I don't don't think so. Regardless, if you're into some side-scrolling brawlers, or well, if you like what you see, then this might be just what you're after. And finally, while this list has been in no particular order whatsoever, please do not think it is. This list is completely unordered. What is arguably the second best action MMO on the market right now is Blade & Soul. While people definitely argue between Black Desert and Blade & Soul, to me it's more along the lines of what type of combat you prefer. Black Desert requires you memorize a lot of shortcuts on your keyboard, while Blade & Soul has you remember different combos and have efficient ping, because let me tell you, this game is very ping reliant. The combat is beautiful, it has a wuxia theme to it, and there really aren't any MMOs that are inspired by Asian culture around anymore. It also has a very engrossing story, one that both Mrs Stix and I thoroughly enjoyed the first time we played through it. And with both its large open environment and open world PvP, it makes leveling and playing the game a lot of fun. If only NCSoft would fix the game and release that Unreal Engine 4 overhaul, this could be something truly great. And these are my top favorite action MMORPGs right now. That might change next year when more games come out, or should I say that might change next year if more games come out. But what is your favorite action MMO? Or rather, what are your favorite action MMOs, plural? Let me know down in the comments below, because you know what? It might actually help someone that's looking for something that you're interested in and they're interested in, that you guys share common interests in. Anyway guys, that is it for me. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you guys next time.
Someday soon, I'm gonna make it. Yeah, all hard work's gonna be